Hey Zoe,
Hey.
you missed it. I had Forever Young playing
Oh,
for you,
man,
Alphaville.
thank you.
Maybe we'll go out with Alphaville. And like your
That's very sweet.
bros are your brothers are here. Like we were talking about you while you weren't here.
Oh, well, sorry about that.
It's all good. How's it
Hopefully
going?
all good things.
How are things? You're at home today, I heard, right?
Yes,
Got
I'm
it.
home. We have going to be close to the downtown Frederick today, so
Got it.
let's go.
So when we talked about the concept of this, you told me I'm not allowed to ask you for any recipes because you're not the recipe person in the organization.
That's right.
So, I mean, why don't you, I mean, I kind of know the story, but why don't you tell me a little bit about the Zoe's chocolate story and like how, I mean, there's lots of good stuff there, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you guys have a great story.
I think so. Well, our family's always been in the chocolate business, so we grew up in the chocolate industry our whole lives. And then, our dad came from Greece. Both our parents are Greek, and our dad came from Greece in the 70s, learned the trade, and, was something that he did his entire life.
Right.
So, we made friends very quickly young because we had our parents made chocolate, so we were in good hands. But in early 2000, our dad lost his job. So my brothers and I kind of banded together. We were like, we really got to get back into this. And, we can't lose the tradition that's been in our family for so long. So 2007, we opened up Zoe's Chocolate. And what we wanted to really do is kind of marry the old tradition with new. We took a lot of things that our dad used to do and kind of modernized it to today's palate. But, one of the things that we grew up with was obviously like chocolate pastry or Greek pastries and Greek flavors because we've spent so much time in Greece. We really wanted to do Mediterranean inspired chocolates along with American classics since, we were raised here as well.
Was there anybody else doing that in the States at that point? I don't think there really was. I mean,
Not really. I can't. Much. So I didn't see too much like baklava or tahini or anything like that. But yeah,
right.
so I don't think so.
Cool. So that's Waynesboro, right? I mean, central Pennsylvania, north of DC
Yeah,
area, right?
yeah.
And you were,
We're
but I
close
mean,
to Gettysburg.
you were doing fancy stuff. You were in DC and not doing chocolate at all, and decided that like you're going to throw away the career and all that good stuff and go back. Not throw away. Throw away sort of sounds really negative. I don't mean
Yeah,
it like that, but like you made a change, right? I mean, you were on a
right.
trajectory. You were on a career trajectory, and you really changed what you were going to do.
Yeah. And I don't regret it for a moment. A lot of people were like, I can't believe you're leaving, your apartment in DC, moving back with your parents. It's not the most ideal thing. Being in your old bedroom where everything seems so much smaller after you get a lot larger. But I think there's something so amazing to be able to see something from inception all the way to the end, to see, your creations being sold or people enjoying them. We were raised around food. We love food, and it was something that brought us a lot of. We were passionate about what we were doing, and I can't say that I had like the same super passion as I do now for my old job. So I don't regret it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I told the story too that I was working on Capitol Hill. I was a poli-sci major, was working on Capitol Hill, and there was a regime change, in DC, and I lost my job, and I went back to food, right? Because it was comfort. My dad had been in the food industry for years, and like I needed a job, and like I'm
For
with you.
sure.
Like my life would have been really different, and I don't know that we make decisions like that just because of whatever the reason is. Like it was a family thing, and it was a passion about food. Mine was I needed to pay rent, right? I mean, so it was a little
Yeah.
less high and mighty than yours, but like I'm with you. I don't know that I would feel, for me, 30 years down the road, which it really almost is, which is a little scary, but I don't think I would have the same passion that I had for what I do and what I get to experience every day. I mean, chocolate is one of those things that, I mean, it's really visceral. right?
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, if you think about how much time and effort you put into your job, how much work that you do in a lifetime, why not enjoy it? So,
Right. And so you were, I mean, so this project was you, your two brothers, and your father.
yeah.
I mean, fundamentally, I mean, the three of you, the siblings owned the business, but you know, I mean, George, who I've had the pleasure of sharing a meal or two in your house, right? I mean,
Yes.
so full disclosure, we did an installation at Zoe's. Tomrick did 12 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And you know, we were learning stuff. You were learning stuff. I mean, Zoe's was learning stuff, and you invited us to dinner. And we're like, okay, we'll go to dinner with you. Where are we going? And George is like, you're coming to the house. I'm cooking dinner. And we're all like, okay. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like, okay, we got to go. Like, we got to be back tomorrow morning to help finish this installation. But, you know, I mean, there's a lot of knowledge there. There's a lot of passion in your family for what you do. I mean, there's always been, right? I mean, is that driven by your father, do you think?
Is it what?
Is it driven by your father? I mean, is that really where that comes from for you guys?
I mean, I think, you know, we were talking about this not too long ago with food, and I'm sure it's in a lot of families, but I know specifically like in Greece and in Greek families, you know, we love food. And I think that there's just, I mean, we're eating dinner, talking about what we're going to eat for tomorrow's dinner. You know, there's just this passion about it. And, you know, both of our parents are, you know, extremely hardworking, and, you know, they have a great work ethic. So, you know, our mom's a teacher, and she's always put 150% into her students. So I think, you know, they always told us, no matter what you do, love what you do, enjoy it. And, you know, I think we were really fortunate to be able to have, and it was a difficult situation in the beginning, but I think the ultimate result at the end was in our benefit, because it was something that we really ultimately love and continue.
What was difficult about it? I mean, like, you know, you're running a chocolate business. That's exactly what you want. Nothing's difficult there. You melt the chocolate, you mold the chocolate, you sell the chocolate. Easy money, right? That's all you got to do.
Of course, it's so simple, as everybody knows.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about too, you know, our parents did not have the same, things changed in the chocolate industry.
Oh, yeah.
So from, you know, talking about like the 80s, 90s to now, I mean, it's a completely different world. And I think, you know, being able to go through that process when things were just starting to change, was scary, because we didn't know either. Our parents didn't know, our dad didn't know what to expect. It was something that, you know, we've never done before. It was different flavors, learning about how the machines work, which machines work. So, you know, that whole process, not having any money to start, you know, living with your parents, not taking salaries. As any entrepreneur starts something, it's scary. But when you're in your early 20s, you have a lot less to lose. So.
I mean, you were living with your parents. How hard is that? Like, isn't that what every millennial's doing now? They're living with their parents. But you're right. I mean, I think that the chocolate in the early 2000s was becoming a new ballgame, right? I mean, we were talking with Norman Love here last week. The weeks all roll together right now. But Norman's been here recently, and Norman really, I mean, was one of those people that helped to change chocolate in North America, you know, during that time. I mean, I was trying to think. I think he said he started 2001-ish with his own chocolate company when he left the Ritz-Carlton. And,
okay.
Right, and so it became a new environment at that point, right? I mean, premium chocolate didn't have to come from Europe, and I could get something other than a chocolate-covered pretzel or a caramel from an American chocolatier, right? Right. I mean,
right.
We were all candy makers until 2002. Or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Somewhere along the way, we stopped being candy makers and we started being chocolatiers. Is that a fair? I mean, I think you were in that time, right? So you start this business and you're rolling along, and things go well, things don't go well. I mean, other than living at home, which, you know, It is what it is.
I mean, we can't complain because we have prepared meals like all the time, and it's like laundry's done, so
Right.
there's a lot less to complain about. But yeah, I mean, I think the first couple of years until you figure out what you're doing, and I think one of the hard things is being able to really focus on not straying to do other different things and really just going forward with what you're good at. And then we're also working with siblings too, so it took us a little while to figure out who fits what position and how things are kind of going to roll. So it took us I would say like 3-4 years to kind of get our feet on the ground until we started really seeing some great traction in our company.
So you had the one location in Waynesboro, right?
Yeah.
And then at some point there were multiple retail locations, right? I mean,
well, there's one more in Frederick, Maryland.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And then, but you were also starting to sell to some wholesale type projects, right? I mean, there was
we
a
still
major
do.
grocery chain at one point.
We did. Yeah, it's true. We did. We sold to Whole Foods. We sold to Williams-Sonoma. We did Dean and DeLuca. So we got some really great accounts. We sell all through DC to hotels, specialty stores, and now it's kind of expanded from there.
But there were some challenges, which were pretty public because you did this little TV show or something that I heard about, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
As you were growing, there were challenges, right? I mean, the bigger we get, the more we have to spend, the bigger we can get, and then if we lose things, it gets challenging.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
And so that definitely happened somewhere, and that's in the happy story about family. There was some not happy stuff. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all go through those growing pains. As you need money you spend money and need money, and it's that vicious cycle.
Right.
And we were growing, and it's kind of one of those things. As you grow, it's almost like when you get an A in class and how hard you have to work to keep that A and to not drop below it. And it's like that constant, keep working at it. So, being small, we had a lot of trouble with like distributors and stuff like that because our margins are not, huge. So we did end up doing a lot of things ourselves, which works, but it pulls us into a lot of different ways. So I think that was tough for us.
Right. If you're making the delivery to DC to drop off at the Intercontinental, I'm making that up. I don't know if that was one of your accounts. It does. DC traffic doesn't really preclude to you innovating new recipes or finding a new client, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that the kind of stuff we're talking about? I mean, were you guys making your own deliveries? I mean,
not
were you
always, but we did. There's this a very funny story that my brothers did a delivery to Whole Foods.
This is what we're looking for. This whole show is about you telling funny stories. I've been trying. Good. Let's stay on this vein. Tell the funny story.
You should have told me in the beginning then. No, my brothers did a delivery to Whole Foods at like, I can't remember what it was. We did their and they didn't turn back home until like 4 or 5 in the morning, and they waited in line with these semis, and they had rented a truck, and they were freezing because it was like they were in refrigerated rooms for hours. So they had a tough time, but thankfully I have 2 brothers that took that that burden. They're good brothers. They're wonderful brothers. So
Petros is saying he's still cold from the warehouse, and that was So we've been talking about this on our website for a couple of days, and I got a couple of questions. And so I alluded to it, but what is the CNBC story? So you can tell the story.
I can tell the story. So we did The Prophet like 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was. And we basically just wrote in because, it's tough to grow, and we've always grown organically. And I think, we're very fortunate to be in great communities, but it's still difficult to get yourself out there. And we wanted somebody to help us, to kind of back us and to help us get to the next level. So we wrote into the Prophet and we got chosen. And we did the show a couple of years ago, and it was a very interesting, unique, but fun experience. And we're still partners, and everything's going along. I mean, the business runs the same. My brothers and I still, have the day-to-day, but it's we have Marcus as well as a partner.
Does he check in with you still, and or is it kind of like you guys are running the show for the most part?
We check in with him. We try as much as we can. During the week. Everybody, especially now, everybody's pretty busy, but we usually talk to him. A couple times a month, once a week, or something like that.
So what? I don't even know when that was. I mean, that was in the last couple of years, right? I mean,
yeah, it was like 2, maybe 3 years ago. I can't even remember where we are.
I tell people that I don't prep for these interviews because I generally don't. But I watched the 10-minute consolidated version of The Prophet, your episode today on YouTube before this started. I mean, it looks like it fundamentally changed your business. I mean, you did everything from process to branding to somebody's talking about packaging, because we're all passionate about packaging. I mean,
yeah.
Packaging to the message to recipes to this thing that was kind of your family's, right? I mean,
yeah,
it was the product of what you guys had done. Whether other people thought that was good or bad, walking into my house and telling me to move my couch creates a little bit of angst in me, right?
Sure.
I mean, you fundamentally created a new business in a really short amount of time. Am I right about looking at it that way? Yeah. So everybody knows your Wi-Fi's going in and a little out a little bit. But I mean, what I saw was, you were pretty passionate about logo, right? I mean, there was a little snippet there where you're kind of like, and TV's TV, right? I mean, TV's edited, and I don't think you spent the entire time yelling at each other, which from the 10-minute story looks like you did. But somebody asking you to change something that's yours, has got to be hard, right?
Right. And I mean, I think, when you put so much effort into something and, it's not received well, I think it can be frustrating, but, every company goes through a rebranding at some point. And I think, one of the things that came out from the show is that we embraced our story a little bit more. We were more open with it. And we kept, sort of the logo, and we kept kind of, the same idea, but we just changed the colors, which, at the end of the day, I was happy about. So
it didn't become Petros's chocolates, though.
It didn't. It almost did. Or Pontalese, which would have been even better. The longer the name, the better.
The longer, the more difficult name, the better, right? I mean, it gets into people's minds. I'm notorious. So at some point in the conversation, usually on these, I mispronounce something horribly and somebody makes fun of me. So that's why I did not even try to pronounce your last name. I've been telling, who am I talking to? I'm talking to Zoey from Zoey's Chocolates. And everybody's like, Zoey who? I'm like, Zoey.
She's got that last name, starts with a T.
Yeah, there's her. The one from The Prophet. You saw her. She's good. So things are better, different. They're better, probably.
Yeah, I think, we have more opportunities, which we didn't have before. And I think, that helped. And it also helped push us because we were in a spot where we didn't push to change, to look a little bit from the outside and to change things, changing our colors and our palette. So it was
the process, but he changed process too, right? I mean, I think that's hard, right? I mean, for me, having somebody walk into my space and so the way you're doing that, not so much. Like, you want to do it this way. And my initial reaction was like, and you know this because why? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
so that had to be hard on all of you to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think, I mean, constructive criticism is always good. And I feel like we're good at accepting constructive criticism. I think, you know, in the beginning of the show, it's hard to articulate why you're doing things a certain way. And, you know, I think it's also hard when people don't know how it's happening, why you're doing it, spending enough time to see the way that you think about it and the way that you do it. But, you know, I think things happen for the right reasons, and, you know, we're happy with it. And, you know, any good change is a good change. So, you know, it's all for everybody's benefit at the end. The whole goal is to grow the company. And I think, you know, obviously we're all behind doing that. And that's what we're going to continue going forward with.
What's the best new piece of chocolate that came out of the whole adventure?
The best new piece? Geez, I don't know. Well, we didn't keep a lot of the pieces that we did with the show because there were like way too many. We did. I mean, there was a clip that didn't end up being on the show, but we ended up going to California with like, I don't know how many thousands of pieces that poor Petch was doing for like, we had time limits, so we had to do things really quickly, but he was making all these new pieces, and, you know, new recipes aren't that easy to make like that. So, I mean, between eating a lot of chocolate and him making it, I think we were about done with that.
He said 8,000. He made 8,000 pieces for that trip.
Oh, yeah.
So he remembers. It's burned into his forebrain like a mosaic tablet, right? His
fingers, yeah, I'm sure were. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we were doing a new one. We did a new one, the honey piece, which I really like. That's one of the newer ones. And then right now he's doing 3 new ones for the summer season, which are great. He does a key lime, like a deconstructed key lime, which is really good. Cool. A lemon and a mandarin. So I love them all. I you know, I wouldn't want him to put anything out that I didn't love.
Got it. So well, you know, they're all your favorite. They're like your children.
That's right. That's exactly how I see it.
So elephant in the room, how's business in the era of COVID? How's it been for the last 10 weeks?
You know, it's just like everybody else. We're making do the best that we can. We've switched a lot to online sales, you know, pushing our online, which is actually a good thing for us to do, focus a little bit more on online than anything else. So, you know, I think we're doing what we can, and as much as the best that we can.
Have you been open through everything, or did you have to close for a little while?
We stayed open. The 3 of us worked while everything was going on. So we did curbside only in Pennsylvania. We shut Frederick down, and then we did online and curbside.
Got it. And, you know, we're talking to a lot of people. Obviously, I talked to a lot of people in the chocolate industry that, you know, Easter, if you had a decent, you know, online presence, was okay, and Mother's Day was up, which from a lot of people from where they were. And I don't know, I'm not quite sure why. I think people were looking for a way. They couldn't take mom out to dinner, so maybe they sent chocolate. Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something as simple as that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody ends up spending so much time on the computer and on your phones and looking for things to buy.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, when you think about Mother's Day, chocolate is does really well for Mother's Day. So, you know, why not use that as something that, you know, you can push a little bit more at this time.
Got it. So what's next for Zoë Chocolates? I mean, what as you global domination, like what is really what's the next phase? I mean, as your guys are growing and trying to change and stay relevant and flavors and all that stuff, what do you see as the next thing for you guys?
I mean, right now, I think we're focusing on, just pushing forward. A lot of our plans are changing a little bit, slightly, given, the last couple months. But, we just want to keep doing what we're doing, but selling to more people and being more exposed. So, as far as flavors go, we're always trying to think of something different and something new. And, you can be inspired by the tiniest thing. So, I think we're just going to keep pushing forward to keep growing.
So our friend Eric Case keeps like making comments, and he made a comment about machetes earlier, and now he's talking about Belize. So I'm assuming
Please.
that you guys, at some point in the recent history, you've been in Belize, probably exploring cocoa regions, would be my bet. Fair?
Well, we went to Ecuador, which was amazing. We had a great time. And then this year they were supposed to go to Belize, but it ended up obviously getting canceled. It was in March. So maybe next year, but.
Yeah. I was supposed to, because I complain about this every week. I was supposed to be in Ecuador this spring with Valrhona and did not get the opportunity to go, or República de Cacao. And yeah. So.
Next year.
I still have an airplane ticket. I've got a JetBlue ticket to Guayaquil. So at some point I'll get to go to Guayaquil. And, I don't know that I want to go to Guayaquil right now, but some one of these days. Yeah. So, how'd you end up in Belize with Eric Case? I missed the answer. Sorry, Zoe.
We went to Ecuador together with República. This year was supposed to be Belize.
Okay, so the same trip.
But yeah.
Got it.
So, but it was really fun. Ecuador was a great time. It was a great group of people.
Cool. And so I guess that begs the question, a lot of people, and you don't have to answer this one. I mean, I'm assuming you're using República for some of what you're doing, right?
And Valrhona, and we use Albert Ooster chocolate too. So. Got
it. A little bit of a bunch of stuff. A little Swiss, a little South American, a little French. So Eric wants me to ask about the machete, and I don't know that I want to know the story about the machete, but I'm assuming there's a machete story in Ecuador.
I was just holding a machete. Eric's gonna make it sound like I did something super crazy, but he would have a way better story than I would, or at least could make up a better story than I could.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like Eric's been a real supporter of this program, and has really worked really hard to try to support, getting people here, and has spent some time doing it every week. And somebody suggested to me that Eric's the guy that I want to talk to, and it's just like, this show is not long enough to talk to Eric. Like we need like this 6-part series.
Like a week-long segment of Eric.
It would be like a Ken Burns mini series. It would be like the Civil War in 37 hours about chocolate with Eric Case. So somebody did just ask, what's your favorite chocolate?
Our favorite chocolate piece. My favorite chocolate piece.
I don't know. I said your favorite chocolate, so it doesn't have to be your piece. It could be I think. I don't know. Favorite chocolate. When I say favorite chocolate, what does that mean to you?
It usually means what's my favorite piece that we make, but
you've already answered that one. So,
I can't say that I have something favorite. There's a lot of chocolatiers that I appreciate, and I've had so many that I can't say. It's like picking one of my own favorites. But
all right, we'll skip ahead. Here's the question that I ask everyone. So it's Christmas, you've been at the shop for 14 hours. You're trying to get home. You're really tired, but you need to get gas in the car. So you stop at the gas station. You put gas in the car. You go inside to get the bottle of Diet Coke, and you decide you need a candy bar. What candy bar do you buy at the convenience mart?
Okay, I'm probably the worst person to ask that, because I think the last chocolate bar I bought might have been 15 years ago at CVS, and it was probably a whatchamacallit.
That's the first time we've heard whatchamacallit is the answer. But they're about to go through a rebranding, and they're about to come out with a new bar. I read that this week in one of the trade magazines.
I hope it's still called a whatchamacallit, though.
it had like pretzels and peanuts and like some caramel in it. They're delicious.
They're so good, but it was probably been more than 15 years. Probably been like 20 some years, but those only 10.
Yeah, I have a Kit Kat bar problem. So it's been about 24 hours since I've had a Kit Kat bar. In fact, like we're at our house, we're getting groceries. We're doing the curbside pickup for groceries right now.
Yeah.
And so my wife does our grocery list, and then I go back in to add 2 or 3 things, and then inevitably I add a Kit Kat bar because that's what I have to have, or else.
I think both my sister-in-laws like Kit Kat bars too. I know my one does, but they both have little sweet tooth candy bar. But we never grew up with eating, chocolate that you'd buy at the store. We actually didn't even have chocolate in the house. We didn't have many snacks in general because my parents liked making us food that they knew what we were eating. But we just didn't grow up with a lot of chocolate bar snacks, unfortunately.
So one of our viewers just said there's a place for all candy bars, and that's kind of where I sit. I can have dinner at the Inn at Little Washington, and I can have a burger at my corner bar. They're both important.
Absolutely. Now burgers are a totally different story.
So Christopher Elbow's asking if you like butter. So I'm sure there's some story about you eating butter on this Ecuador trip. There must be something.
I do. I do love. I have a little infinity towards butter. I could just eat it with a spoon.
Yeah, I lived in Wisconsin for a while, and there's this burger chain, and their motto is "Butter makes it better." And and I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, well, we put butter on the buns. I'm like, okay, but it does make it better, but it seems pretty grandiose for a little bit of butter on a toast.
Better.
It does make everything better.
It really does.
So,
question.
I'm kind of at a loss because you guys, your family when we were there left a really big impression on me, and so I think how you guys have gotten where you got it is really, I know I keep coming back to that, but I think it's part of who you are. And so I did watch the Prophet thing, and it surprises me a little that you didn't want to share that. That was I don't know if you didn't want to share it. I don't know why you didn't want to share it, because for me, it's such a big part of when I was there with you guys, who you are.
Sure.
Your history is so, talking to your dad, right, it was like talking to this guy that knew everything about chocolate, right? Had his hands in it for years, and there was so much experience and so much love for ingredients and what you guys did that it surprised me a little bit that you wanted to hold that at an arm's length. Am I looking at that fairly, or is that just editing?
It's a little bit of both. It wasn't that, I think it was really tough for him to lose his job. And I think that's what, we kind of kept private, is that it was a tough time for him. And we had to respect that. And, we were just, we're protective of each other, and just like any family is. And I think that's, instead of being able to talk about it, which I think is always better because it makes things easier. I just didn't see a reason to, but I think people do connect with each other, and I think that's important, especially now. We need connections more than anything, and we need support from each other more than anything. And I think, was eye-awakening to be able to see that people do, and I think it was good for him too, that people can appreciate it and accept that.
Yeah, I work for a company too that we're a family company. We're owned by this, the children of technically the second generation, but there's a longer story than that. And we resisted personalities for a really long time, right? We talked about our history, but we didn't talk about people, right?
Right.
And we're in the middle of a rebrand right now too, and the 14-page questionnaire about who we are. And one of the things that our marketing company keeps coming back to is that you've expanded your family, right? You're a family business, but now you have people that have worked for you for a long time, and that's part of the family. And your customers then can become part of the family as well, right? I mean, that's, you know, I think in a lot of ways, Zoe's, not you, but Zoe's in our head is part of our family at Tomric, because you were an early adopter to things that, you know, now we sell as commonplace. But when you guys took a risk on us, right? I mean,
yeah, that's right.
It was a big check. I mean, you guys wrote a big check for the time, for you and for us. And, you know, you invited us into your home. Like, I mean, that story is important to me, because I think that's how we like to do business. And, you know, so I get it, but I also, I always wonder, because like personalities have become sort of the norm, right? I mean, brand building has become commonplace, where I think 20 years ago it wasn't, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there was the company out here, and there were people that worked there, but the two shall never, you know, meet in some ways.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I think, you know, we've gotten so used to walking into a big department store or a store and you don't have a connection. And I think, you know, you don't realize how important it is when somebody comes and talks to you, or, you know, how many times have you gone to a restaurant and the chef comes out and explains to you what he's making and why he's making it. And for as connected as we are, we're so disconnected sometimes. So having that familiarity is important, and we haven't realized how important that's going to become even further down the road. You know, being able to open your doors to people and being able to talk to them. And I think, you know, all these things are important that we used to do, or we continue to do as a family business, and you guys too. I think there's something nostalgic and genuine and, you know, just comforting about it, to be able to have that ability to do that. And I think it's important, regardless of how big you are, to have that connection with your customers and with your people, because it's such a lost art. You know, we don't care about, you know, not we, but I'm just saying in general as a society, right. We're just so quick about things, and everything has to be done at the tip of your fingers. And I think one of the things that, you know, this whole pandemic has shown us is that we need to slow down, and we need to take time to talk to each other and to reach out to each other. And I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team that came and did your install, we all still work together. You know, I mean, we were all on a call this morning. I mean, we're working from the office, and to talk, we go on Microsoft Teams and we look on a screen. But and mostly because we don't want to all have to walk around like this all the time.
Right.
But you know, Elliot, Sean, and I have worked together a really long time. You know, and Elliot and Sean have worked together longer than I've been part of that team. And you know, we bring people in, and they become part of the family. And then there's new people like Zoe's Chocolate that become part of our family, and people that we can rely on. You know, I think of people like, you know, William Dean Chocolate is another one, and you know, some people that I've talked on these calls. So people like Norman Love, who, you know, have always been around. And I think some of that's chocolate. I mean, we're pretty tight. We're a pretty tight-knit group. Like, yeah. We're competitor. Like, our competitors, I have in my cell phone, and I can pick up the phone and just ask them a question. You know, other people that sell chocolate equipment. And I mean, you went on that trip to Republica. I mean, Christopher Elbow is here giving you a hard time, right?
Yeah.
But he's a competitor, right? In a lot of ways, and in other ways he's not. Right? So we still get along, and we're still friends, and we're still family, even though we're, you know, scrapping for some of the same dollars, right? I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something for everybody, and there's so many people in the world that you can sell to. You know, same people can appreciate certain things, and you know, I think, you know, we can appreciate each other's art, and you know, I think Chris makes amazing chocolates, and you know, I've never had a piece of his that I'm like, and you know, I think you can appreciate that. You know, he's an artist, and you know, you know, just like we would say about other people, you can appreciate these things about each other.
Right. We all have a space, right? I mean, if we're genuine about who we are, we all have a space, right?
Right.
There's a little corner, because you guys aren't Walmart, right? You're not Target.
Right.
No disrespect to Walmart or Target. I mean, you're not Mars, right? I mean, you're not the whatchamacallit bar. But maybe that could be the next innovation. You guys could do your own. You could do your own you could do your own Zoe's whatchamacallit bar. You can call it like the Thingamabob bar or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. But I mean, so I promised you 45 minutes, and we're kind of getting close to that. So here's your opportunity to do marketing for your website, your Instagram page, for whatever you want. This is it. This is your space.
ZoeChocolate.com. We're in Frederick, Maryland, Waynesboro, PA. You can email us, you can call us, and we'd be happy to help.
And lots of great chocolate options. And then, so we're Tomric Systems on Instagram, which most of you probably already know because you came in through us. We're tomric.com on the web. My Instagram's Brian Donaghy. And I'm looking for the song because I promised you a song and you missed it. So I'm going to play it out for you. Let's see if we can find it. And hey, Zoe, thanks a bunch for spending a bunch of time with us today.
Thank you.
I know you're busy and you got lots going on. So appreciate you spending a little bit of time in the middle of all this stuff.
My pleasure.
And you know how to reach us if you need anything.
Indeed.
And I've now committed that you're part of the family. So
yes,
we got to do whatever we can do. Alphaville, forever young. All 80s all the time here at Tomric Systems. Napoleon Dynamite. This song made the movie Napoleon Dynamite. So, all right, Zoe, thanks a bunch.
beautiful. Thanks, Brian. Take care.
And we'll talk soon. All right, peace.